Charlie.
Hey.
Hey, man, how you doing?
Doing good.
So I got to ask, to start this whole little thing off. Are you Italian?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I am.
All right. So the magical question I ask to all my fellow Italians: is it gravy or sauce?
It's sauce, man. It's sauce. Gravy's what I put on my mashed potatoes.
See, in my world, it's gravy. It's funny.
It's gravy.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's that whole debate between the old school and like the new school. I guess it all really depends on where you grew up and what part of Italy your grandparents or great grandparents grew up in. You know how they dictate. You know, at the end of the day, it's still delicious.
Absolutely. You know, it's funny, when I first got together with my wife and I first moved in with her. She said to me, she's like, "Well, what do you want me to make for the first dinner?" I'm like, macaroni with gravy. And she thought I meant like macaroni and cheese with brown gravy. She had no conception.
Yeah, I mean that sounds good too. I'd probably eat that also.
Oh man. So the silencer, dude. So this is kind of a little interesting. Like this whole thing, like it sounds like it started as a side project, and now it's like your main baby.
Yeah, absolutely. It's pretty much exactly how it went down. I was in between bands at one point. I was drumming for one band, and then I was starting to pick up session work as a drummer when I left that band. And I'd always played guitar, and I was always able to sing, and I just didn't really tell a lot of people that. I mean, a lot of people knew I played guitar, but not like they didn't know how well.
Right.
So this was kind of my little breakout moment where all the things that frustrated me about being in bands where things were going so well, but then musically maybe we weren't going in the right direction or things would fall apart. This was something that allowed me just to totally get out everything I needed to vent, even on a personal level. So more than anything, it was just something for me to get out all my frustrations and all my personal demons and lay it out there. And yeah, it was a side project, a solo project. And it wasn't until more recently that things got really, really serious with it.
Yeah, I mean, it sounded like I'm guessing in 2012 when you put the first single out, you had some success with that single as well. But then you took a break for like 2 years from it, and then you went back to it in 2014.
Yeah, so I put out this first single called "Discovery of the Lost Cause," and it did really well locally in the local market here. I'm from New York, and all the bands I played in were out of New Jersey, and it was getting good rotation on this radio station, WSOU. They basically are the premier heavy metal station for the entire tri-state area for the most part. And it went to number one most requested, and it was getting call-ins every day, which was awesome. Because I think what happened was I had developed a real underground following and buzz with the band I was previously in right before the silencer picked up, and that was called Will Kilmore. So after that it started developing, I got the call to join my old Will Kilmore bandmates in their new band, Julius Seizure, as vocalist. So what happened was with the silencer, that kind of lent itself to showing my old bandmates and some other guys that, hey, maybe this kid can, he could sing as well. And so long story short, I ended up signing up with Julius Seizure, which was the name of the band after Will Kilmore, sang with them for a little while, and then again kind of fell off the map with the silencer because of that and got derailed. And then, like as you mentioned, in 2014, kind of reemerged with it when I had some time to once again put out another single, and that seemed to be the vicious cycle with the whole project. It would be putting out a single, then jumping into a regular band full time, and then leaving that band, then putting out another single. And when I was putting out these singles, I was doing them on my own with just the help of a former guitar player for all the studio engineering. So that was the cycle. And then a little while after 2014 I took another break. So that seemed to be how things were just going for a long time. And the big problem was I was really hesitant to make this a full band because anyone who's in bands knows the turmoil and all the drama that can ensue from being in a band and all the ups and downs. And you'll always have like 3 or 4 guys who are doing all the work, and then there's always 1 or 2 bad apples that ruin the entire thing for everybody and really sabotage the whole band for everyone. And because this was a solo project, I said to myself, well, if it doesn't go anywhere, that's on me. If it goes somewhere, that's on me. At the end of the day, I can at least just be releasing music and be creative without any restrictions or limitations. And if it doesn't do anything, well, at the end of the day, I was okay with that. But, you know, once you have the itch and once you have the bug for playing in a band, it never goes away. And I had to bring this band to the live setting and the live stage. So inevitably, I had to incorporate musicians and fellow bandmates at some point.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing I was going to say, too. Like, from playing in bands myself, like, I know, like, when you come up with them new songs, like, I just wanted to play them live. Like, I just wanted to see people's reactions. And you know what I mean? Like, to me, like, you can feel, like, inside how much. You know what I mean? It's the energy of it, the newness of it, and wanting to share it with people. So, like, you had to be going crazy for them a few years. You kept popping out these singles, and it was just you.
Yeah, I absolutely was going stir crazy. And I mean, personally, in my personal life, things were kind of like all up in the air, and there's a lot of uncertainties. And the only constant thing in my life was always music. And what happened was I had released the single In Waiting, which at that point was definitely the most aggressive, like balls to the wall single I put out. And the reaction to that was really good. I started testing the waters with saying, well, all right, here's the single. I'm not going to do a ton of campaigning with it on social media. I'm just going to kind of put it out there and let this stuff float around and see if people pick up on it. And what I noticed was at the core of my underground fan base of the people who had been following me since day one with all my endeavors, they were still latching onto it. So then I said, I wonder if I release some T-shirts. Like, I'm not playing live now, keep in mind, but if I release some T-shirts, like, will they sell? So I did a limited run of, like, really sick killer T-shirts, and they all sold. So I was like, oh, all right, I might be onto something. So I kept that in mind. And then I just kept getting sidetracked, like I said. And it was just my personal life. A lot of things were uncertain. I was changing my career outside of music. I was becoming a music educator. So that became something that was at the forefront of my objectives. And my creativity and my music expression kind of became secondary for a little while. But I absolutely was going stir crazy, and I was driving myself up a wall, like waiting and thinking about when and how can I get back into playing live. And I had stepped into the drum roll again, playing for a band called Silence Equals Death out of New Jersey. And that was cool and all, but it didn't really give me that same feeling and that excitement and that passion that you were kind of just describing as my original music would have. Like, so when I envisioned my original music on the live stage, I was like, oh, I got to do this. So it was really, really tough. But luckily, at that particular point in time when I released In Waiting and then the follow-up Solitarius Lupus, I was in the transition of teaching music. So I was constantly surrounded by music. I was teaching these kids, and I was a music director. So I was able to, like, go on stage with them and see them shine. And then that portion of my life for those couple of years and that period of time became all about them and all about helping others and inspiring others. And in doing so, it actually kind of gave me a new sense of life. It really brought out something in me that I'd never felt before. And I think that's one of the catalysts as to why I'm even doing this right now.
That's awesome. So now, last year, 2017 is when you decided to really make this a real band. What was the thing that really, like, flipped the switch for you and said, you know what, screw it, let's do it?
Yeah, so as this train slowly gained momentum, I released a single called Atonement. Once again, I wrote and recorded all the guitars, drums, bass, vocals like I had done on the previous singles. But this time I wanted to release a music video around the single. And I was really scratching my head around how can I do this? It's bad enough that I thought the whole project was revolving around me. Like, I was writing everything. It was my voice. The last thing I wanted to do was just have the focal point of a video be just me.
Right.
It just seemed very, like, self-centered. I don't know. Some people, like even the director that I worked with at the time, he was like, well, we could totally do this. We'd film you in the studio doing all your parts and show some kind of storyline about you. And I was like, yeah, that's cool and all, but that's not what I'm about. So that's when I really started racking my brain around, can I make this an actual band? So I reached out to my former guitar player from Julius Caesar and Will Kilmore. His name is Steve Toth. He's actually the guy who had, up until this point, had engineered all the singles with me, as well as Kevin Antrazian of Dillinger Escape Plan. So I got him on board. I was like, hey, man, I'm going to do this music video. Would you be cool with learning the single that you helped me record in your studio? And he was like, yeah, absolutely. You know, he's a big ham. He loves being, you know, on stage. He loves recording music and doing music videos. So he already had the look. I knew he could play the stuff. And once he said yes, I knew that, all right, if I wanted to make this a live band, he would probably agree to this also. It was tricky, though. I had to get a drummer and a bass player. So by the time Atonement was released and we put out the music video, the full lineup wasn't even in place yet. It was just myself, Steve Toth, the guitarist, Zachy Ali, the drummer, and the bassist Dave Goyette. I knew that going into the live setting, because even though I write all the stuff on guitar, I really suck at singing and playing guitar at the same time. Something I could never, ever seem to do my entire life. I'm really good at both, but not at the same time. So I knew I had to get another guitar player, and I had some issues trying to find someone that was going to fit the bill. And then a longtime friend of mine that I've known since I was probably 15 years old, his name's Greg Geiler, he just hit me up out of nowhere when the music video came out and said, hey, man, if you ever want to jam, if you ever need another guitar player, whatever, I'm throwing my name in the hat. And I was like, funny you should mention it. I really want to start playing live shows. So once I got Greg Geiler, I took that whole summer after Atonement was released to get with him, to teach him all the material, to vibe with him again, because it had been a couple of years since I seen him. And once I was comfortable, right around the end of the summer, that's when we got our first show offer, and it was for opening up for 36 Crazy Fists at our club here in New Jersey called Dingbats. So, and 36 Crazy Fists are one of my all-time favorite bands. So for me, that really lit a fire under my butt to get this thing rolling on a serious national level, because I said to myself, well, I'm going to be opening up for a band that I love. This band has to be impeccable. We have to be as good as we can be and as tight as we can be. So I was very fortunate to find all these guys.
That's awesome. Good for you, man. Good for you. It's weird how this stuff happens, especially with finding that last piece of the puzzle. You know, an old friend from school just happens to. That's a cool story.
Yeah, I'll be honest, man. Had it not been for Greg Geiler stepping up and hitting me up, and the funny thing is, he was living in, I believe, Queens at the time, Queens or the Bronx, can't remember, but he was living out in the boroughs, and he had hit me up, and by him reconnecting with me, he then moved back up north here where we live in New York, and he now lives like 2 miles from me, and I'm over his place like every day, and he has a rehearsal spot. And that was the other thing, like I didn't have a rehearsal spot for this band, so like I was running back and forth to everyone's places to teach them the parts. But now he's got like a nice rehearsal spot in his place, got a ton of gear set up, and he's really been a godsend. And since he's been in the band, I've been able to open up this project to be more of a band. So the last single we released, Within, is the first time that I incorporated other members in the writing process, and a lot of Greg's riffs and compositions are involved in that. So he's really a godsend.
Was that weird, like letting, you know what I mean, like letting Greg in now on the writing and the other guys, like since it was always you with everything? Right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it wasn't really weird. In one sense, it was a little bit of a relief. Because it made the process way easier. And I think one of the reasons why it took me so long to release singles before was because I'm my own worst enemy, I'm my own worst critic. And I have thousands and thousands of hours of material that is just laying in wait. But I second-guessed a lot of it, and I put it together, and I don't know if it's a finished product or not. But when you put me in a room with other musicians, I naturally gravitate to their strengths, and I play off them very easily. That's something I've noticed over the years. And with Greg, jamming with him, and just because what we would do is in between the songs that I would teach him that were already established, all the silencer stuff, we would just jam, and we'd jam for hours. and we are very similar in the way we see things creatively. Our imagination is very much the same, so we can kind of go on that same ride when we're writing stuff musically. And so it wasn't really weird. It was more of a sign of relief. I will say what was weird was getting Zachy, our drummer, because he's a phenomenal drummer. He's sick, and he's in so many different bands. But I myself, by trade, by like just growing up, have always been a drummer. So now that I'm writing this material and I hear the drums one way and I hear the composition one way, but then I hear what he's doing, I have to remember sometimes I got to put in my input, but other times I have to let him do his thing because he's an artist too. So that was a little challenging at first, letting go of the reins on that. But I noticed since I've done that, like, I'm super pleased with all the work that he's put in as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, you know, it's funny because my best friend who I grew up with, we played in a band together for 16 years. And he started, like, when we were kids as a drummer, and I was a guitarist. And then we lived together at one point, and he would, like, take my guitar when I wasn't home, and he taught himself how to play guitar. And then his bass. And it kind of sounds like you. Like, he was, like, playing everything, and then he just started writing everything. And, yeah, it's just crazy. And I always said, I'm like, dude, can we, like, clone you? Because we can never find a drummer to drum like him. And he wanted to be up front. He wanted to be playing guitar and singing. So it was just, good stuff. But the song Within, I mean, this one, you really, like, you touched every part of, like, the problems that are going on in society today, whether it's, you know, with adults or young adults, children. I mean, you really touched on every issue.
Yeah. It's funny because, you know, when I'm writing stuff, I'm writing from and for myself first and foremost. So if people were to actually look into the lyrics deeply enough, they would see, like, a very close reflection of myself, and they'd hear those inner voices that I'm dealing with. So first and foremost, the song Within came about from just my inner struggles, dealing with, like, the good and the bad in life, dealing with that dark side that we all have, and then that inner light that can bring the good out of us. I have my inner demons. I have the things that kind of plague me from time to time, and you know, in my years, I've dealt with a lot on a personal level. You know, everything from my mother was mentally ill growing up, so I dealt with that, with her being in and out of mental hospitals. I've had a lot of friends commit suicide, like a lot of friends who have died very young. So there's a lot of personal experiences and depths that I touch base on in my music. The song Within, I wanted people to come out of the listening experience not feeling down, depressed, or upset about their situation, but still being able to think about their own personal situation and being able to say, you know what, there's still something within inside of me that makes everything worth living. There's something within inside of me that I can offer to either myself or others that can make me a better person, or that can, you know, really make me shine. And I know it's hard for a lot of people these days. Like suicide seems to be something that is just running rampant, especially in the music and metal communities these days. Whether it's suicide or overdoses, you know, dealing with substance abuse. And you constantly see that with social media, the way it's become, people are putting themselves and projecting themselves to the public eye as one thing. And then we're shocked to hear and listen that they were suffering through all this other depression or anxiety or shortcomings. So I really wanted people to know that no matter how badly you feel inside, it's okay to feel that way. You're not messed up or crazy for thinking or feeling a certain way, that there's others going through probably similar or circumstances that you can identify with. And then again, at the end of the day, if you just stop for a second and realize that there are beautiful things in this life, that might save you from certain devastation. And so the song was written, and I wanted to do a music video for the track. And I was sitting one night actually just watching music videos on YouTube, because that's, like, just my favorite thing to do.
Sure.
MTV, you know, I grew up in the MTV generation, and I remember when MTV was nothing but music videos. So that's how I draw a lot of my inspiration. So I'm sitting there watching, and all of a sudden Pearl Jam's Jeremy came on. And for anyone not familiar with that video, you know, it basically tells a story of a kid who's misunderstood, ridiculed, bullied perhaps. He's troubled. He's got a troubled background with his family. And by the end of the video, it's alluded that he takes his own life in front of his classroom. And I had watched this video right at the time when all those school shootings and the bullying issues were coming up all over media and mass media as a whole. So I was like, oh man, you know what? I want to take this idea and spin it, because where the Jeremy video failed is simply because it still leaves you with a negative impression that this kid did take his life. And it's supposed to be preventative. I understand what they were doing, but I wanted to spin it in a way where it was like, when you watch our video, you think this girl, she's going through all these issues. She's being bullied. She's being, you know, this older guy's creeping on her and, you know, potentially trying to take advantage of her sexually. She's misunderstood, but deep down inside, she has this thing. She has this love she has a relationship with her boyfriend, and that's that thing that she holds on to, that someone does love her for who she is and sees the beauty in her. So by the end of my video, she doesn't die. She doesn't kill herself. She doesn't do something drastic, although she does play with that idea in the video. And I figured, you know what, with suicide being as prevalent as it is, with bullying being seemingly at an all-time high. I mean, I was bullied as a kid, but we didn't have social media. I didn't have people saying the nasty things that people say. I mean, grown adults say the nastiest things to even young kids. Yeah, it's horrible. It is. So this was kind of my way of fighting all that the best I could, just as an artist. And then I wanted to go one step further. As soon as I realized that I was doing this, not only did I want to make this grandiose looking video with like pyrotechnics to like kind of incorporate the feeling and the emotion I was trying to draw from the music, but I wanted to like hook up with a real PR company and someone that could help me bring this message to the masses. So I hooked up with Catalyst Publicity Group. They did a phenomenal job trying to get the video and the single and the message out there to the public. And then I went one step further and I hooked up with an organization called Artists United Against Bullying, which is run by my good friend Peter Urs, who was the bass player for the Swedish melodic metal band In Flames. Okay. If you go on their pages, you'll just see a slew of who's who artists and musicians who support this cause. And you know, the response has been really well. People have been hitting me up and just inboxing me, thanking me for the video, thanking me for the message that the video and the song sends. And I'll be honest, dude, if like tomorrow it was all over, the fact that I left that impression on people and maybe it helped change some people's minds in their time of need, that's the biggest thing I could ever ask for.
Absolutely, dude. I'll tell you what. I mean, watching the video, well, first off, the initial thing that kept blowing me away was how much use of fire is in the video. Just constant. I'm like, holy crap! That's a lot of fire. But but the scene, you know, towards the end with the girl, you know, contemplating suicide, and she's there with the gun in her mouth. I'm like, holy crap, this girl's gonna blow her freaking head off. Like, I'm like just waiting for it with my mouth open, like, oh my god. So I was really happy that she didn't, I'm glad it went that way, because I people need some positivity on the whole suicide thing, and I think that was a great way to do it.
Yeah, and it's really cool hearing that from you, saying like that it kept you compelled, because that was the biggest thing. I wanted to tell a story. I wanted to make a movie. You know, and we said that, Eric DiCarlo, my director from Square Up Studios, he said that when we were shooting the video. He was like, man, like, because when I gave him the treatment, he understood kind of the direction we were going. But when we were actually starting to shoot it, he's like, wow, we're making a movie like right now. Mm-hmm. I go, yeah, man, that's exactly the point. Is I want to tell this story as clear as day, and I want people to stay captivated long enough, because our attention spans are getting shorter and shorter now. And I wanted people to stay hooked on this video. And I figured, right, if I can catch their attention with like these huge flames like flying behind us as we're playing this like killer metal, that's going to draw people in right there. It's also going to symbolize that burning passion and that inner self, that burning fire that we have, that is our light, that helps guide us through life. And then with the whole storyline with the girl who's actually my little cousin, her name's Jerry.
Oh, wow.
She did an awesome job, where she puts the silencer gun in her mouth and everything. I knew that with the aggression of the song, people were automatically going to be programmed to think that she's going to kill herself.
Mm-hmm.
So we went as far as we could with that, but doing it tastefully, so that when all of a sudden that big melodic part hits at the end of the song again, all of a sudden everything's going in reverse, and all the bad experiences she went through almost seem as if they were a bad dream, and they're almost erasing themselves, because now she has this memory of her and her boyfriend spending this beautiful day together, and that's what she latches onto. That's her inner fire, is that she's compassionate and loving and has someone who loves her. So the fact that you were able to sit there and get that emotion from that, then awesome. That means we definitely did our job.
I'll tell you what, too, it kind of freaked me out too, because I kept thinking, like, this girl's sitting there with the gun in her mouth. Like, what is she thinking? You know what I mean? Like, to herself as she's doing this. Like, not that not the character that she's playing, but in her own mind, what is she thinking with this freaking gun in her mouth?
Oh, well, it was funny, because I mean, not to like I guess you kind of have to make light of the situation sometimes, because in the video shoot itself, so it was really awkward, because that is my cousin, it's my little cousin, and there I am directing her with the director, telling her to get more extreme with it, and like really trying to put the visual out there of, trying to express, this is how you need to look, this is how you need to feel right now. Now, she's done some acting, she was an actress, she did some theater, and now she actually works in the field of television as a special effects and makeup artist. So she understands that this is a production. She understood that, things might get a little weird. But then the funniest thing was when we showed the video to her mother and father. So my aunt, she loved the video. She was amazing. She loved everything about it. The father loved it too, but he was like, as soon as he saw that scene with the gun, his first response was, "Oh my God, that's not a real gun, is it? Well, Jerry, how could you put a gun in your mouth?" And he started freaking out. And, we had to kind of like sit him down and explain, like, there's a prop, it wasn't real, and for this purpose. But she seemed pretty cool with it. She was very proud of the whole video when it was done. I know that the response she got from all her peers and everything was pretty positive as well. But yeah, it was a very weird experience, because it was funny. Like, we're just in my guitarist's bedroom shooting that scene, and because the aesthetic of the room was like perfect for the video. And there I am, just like yelling at her. I'm like, shake your hands, shake. Like, I'm trying to get the emotion and the intensity to translate. And it was a surreal experience. Like, at the end of it, I had to like stop and like remember, like, wow, like that was intense.
See, Nate, you should, because you guys did like a kind of like a behind the scenes, like a making of for the video. You should have did one of those, like behind the scenes of you like screaming at her and all.
Yeah, I mean, ideally in a perfect situation, I would have loved to have had a crew there filming as we were filming. It just unfortunately was like not in the budget, and that's the other thing. Like, we're not signed. You would think with all the production value that we have and the way we release things, the way we carry ourselves as a band, that we were signed to some kind of major metal label. But we do this all on our own, and I'm financially like responsible for everything at the end of the day. So at the end of the day, it was like, I can get some really great photos and hire a photographer to do some behind the scenes stuff, or I could spend another couple $1,000s to get a film crew who might get in the way of my director. So,
right.
And I do wish, because there was a lot of crazy experiences, just like everything from the day we were supposed to shoot that video, things just went crazy. And had we had actual film footage of it, it would have made for another compelling, like almost like a documentary. It was just nuts. Like, we lost the location of where we were supposed to shoot all the fire, like the night before, or no, the day of the shoot, we lost it. And I had to frantically search for another place to shoot the scenes with the fire. It came down to like hours before we had to shoot. So had we had that kind of stuff on video, it would have definitely made for a compelling story.
Holy crap. That's a true behind the scenes right there.
Yeah, well, they say nothing good comes easy, So, that statement couldn't be more true.
True. Well, but something that it does seem to be becoming easier now is, I guess, the whole songwriting, video making process, because you guys released another single and video a month later, Die Trying.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. That wasn't even on the agenda, which is like the nutty thing about it. Within, I'm getting ready to drop Within. And all of a sudden, I'm always posting little clips of me playing guitar on Instagram and Facebook. And for anyone who does listen, I don't know if they know, I actually also work in the world of professional wrestling. When I was younger, I used to actually wrestle, but now I'm a color commentator. And I've done work with Ring of Honor and One Fall Wrestling out in Georgia. And my primary home base is the MFPW in South Jersey next to Philadelphia. So,
well, guess what?
What's that?
I'm a retired professional wrestler, and now I just did my first color commentary on a show last month.
Oh, awesome! Who'd you work with?
I used to be in ECW. I was one of the Dudley Boys.
Wait, who am I talking to?
Bay Ragni, Chubby Dudley.
Oh my God, it's amazing. All right. That's amazing. See, I did not know that. I was not smartened up to that before the interview. That's amazing. Yeah. So I do work at a Monster Factory, and
Danny
a lot
Cage.
of ECW. Yeah, exactly. So you know the whole group and the whole ECW family that has come from there and still comes back there from time to time. So yeah, you know the deal. So got hooked up doing the color commentary, and I love it. I get to be the more arrogant, obnoxious version of myself. Just turn myself up to 11, and then just act as if I'm a pompous rock star, which in my mind I wish I could be sometimes. So by doing that, I hooked up with a lot of different wrestlers. I met a ton of amazing people and super talented people. And this one wrestler by the name of Josh Briggs had seen some of the work that I was doing online, was getting wind of the silencer, and I've also been able to incorporate the silencer into my wrestling gimmick as Chaz Williams. So I'm referred to as the silencer Chaz Williams when I do color commentary. And I go and I sell the silencer T-shirts and try to promote my music when I'm out at wrestling shows as well. And so he kind of saw everything that was going on, saw the one video, and his musical taste falls in line with me. He likes a lot of metalcore bands like Parkway Drive and Killswitch Engage and whatnot. And he hit me up. He's like, dude, that one riff. He's like, please tell me that's not a song. Or no, he goes, is that a song already? I go, it will be soon. I'm planning on writing something for it. And I didn't know really when I was going to write an actual single revolving around this riff. It could have been tomorrow. It could have been a year from now. And he's like, well, if it's not a song, I would really like it to be part of my entrance theme. And at the time, he was about to be signed to Evolve Wrestling, which is one of the companies that works very closely in developing talent for WWE and gets them ready on the independent level. Actually, Matt Riddle, who just got signed to WWE, along with my best friend, Luis Punisher Martinez, they both got signed to NXT just this last month and have just made their debuts. But Riddle came from Evolve as well. So I know they're big time players. So I knew there was no messing around with this. So Josh Briggs tells me to keep it hush hush. I go, listen, man, I'll write you a whole theme song, but I'm not going to write you that stereotypical wrestler theme where there's just no singing and it's just that chunky guitar work. I said, I'm going to write you a single as if it was Killswitch Engage playing CM Punk out or whatever. So he was totally for it. Wrote the single literally in probably a week. The song Die Trying. And I had to go back to doing things the way I did them when the silencer first started. I actually didn't have time to incorporate the other members of the band. I was on a tight schedule time-wise because he needed the single before he debuted. It needed to be approved by Evolve Wrestling. I had to sign the release forms, et cetera, et cetera. So I had to write the whole song myself. And it kind of felt weird because I had just incorporated these guys and I knew how talented they were. I explained to them the situation, but also they realized at the end of the day the silencer is still my baby, and anything I'm going to do for the silencer is only to better the name itself. So they were all cool with it. I said, you guys obviously still get to be in the video. I'll teach you all the parts, and we'll play it live, and it'll become one of our songs. So I recorded the song, wrote it in 1 week, recorded it in 2 days, and then originally I wanted to do a music video where I incorporated Josh as the wrestler story. I wanted to have a storyline in the music video about a do-it-yourself, struggling wrestler coming up the independent scene, making a name for himself, preparing for the big fight night, and then the reward or the payoff at the end of the match, and maybe show a little behind the scenes stuff that you don't get to see. And Josh seemed to be all for it, and Evolve Wrestling seemed to be all for it. But then all of a sudden, things went completely quiet. And as I'm sure you know, in the wrestling business, aside from WWE and maybe Ring of Honor, there's a lot of like flakiness in the wrestling industry. Like things are like hot, they're hot for a minute. People are like guaranteeing, yes, we want to do this, and then where the hell are you like for the next like 3 months? So I knew that. So I wasn't disappointed. I didn't hold any grudges. I just kept moving forward. I couldn't wait. I had a deadline. I had to release this song as a single. I needed a follow-up for Within. So we just ended up making like a really awesome metal video, which is a lot of cool visuals. And the whole song is basically about, you know what, I'm going to make it or I'm going to die trying. Meaning, I'm going to fight to my last dying day, the last breath I have in my body. I'm going to give it my all. And if that wasn't good enough, it's still good enough for me, because at the end of the day, I gave everything. So I wanted to incorporate that theme for not just myself and the Silencer, but for Josh Briggs. When he comes out to the ring every night, I want people to believe in him as a wrestler, as a fighter, in the same way that they believe in my band and my message. So yeah, it was pretty crazy, dude, because Within had not even dropped yet, and now I was already working on production for this new song, and then as soon as Within dropped, we were back at shooting another video. So it was like back to back to back, and I was like, all right, now I know what it feels like to be in like Metallica or like some major band that is constantly going nonstop.
I saw you guys are already working on another single now.
Yeah, yeah, the train keeps rolling, man. There's no signs of stopping. That's kind of like where I'm at right now. It's like I have no signs of stopping this freight train. So Die Trying's out right now. The single, both Within and Die Trying, are doing awesome on YouTube. Like within 1 month, we had over 100,000 views for Die Trying. So, and that's on YouTube. So I don't want to give up that momentum. So Greg Eiler, my guitarist, and I got back into the writing process, and we actually just 2 days ago got back in the studio to begin recording what's called Archaic, which will be the next single. We'll be dropping it in probably, I want to say March, because the music video we're shooting revolves around needing certain winter elements to unfold for us to do this. We're going to do like some kind of location shooting, but it needs to be like dead of winter. So with that being said, we're going to put off the release until like winter. Plus, I think it gives people a good break from all the publicity. Like, I'm a shameless self-promoter, so people need a little bit of a break after a while too.
Yeah. Well, how about do you think you're just going to keep rolling with singles, or you going to like do an EP or a full length at some point, or?
Yeah, I mean, the way the industry is working right now, I personally, and this is just a personal view on it, I don't think you necessarily need to be putting out records if you're putting out singles at the pace that we're putting out singles.
I totally agree.
Because it generally takes a month to two to even get absorbed by the community, that particular music community you're involved in. And then by that time, you're releasing another one, and then another one. It becomes a little bit more costly if you're putting music videos behind every song, which is the way I would like to do it, as long as we can afford to do so. As far as putting out records, I'll be honest, there's only a very select few records that come out from time to time. Every year there's some golden records that the entire thing from start to finish is amazing. But for the most part, in my personal opinion, when a band puts out a record, there's probably like 3 or 4 really good songs on it that are just killer tracks. And then the rest of it, like if it comes on my shuffle, I'll listen to it. I'll probably be like, all right, that was pretty good song, but it's not as memorable. I'm more concerned with creating memorable songs, memorable riffs, memorable experiences for the viewer and the listener. So unless we get picked up by a label that's determining we have to put out a record, which we can do, we've all been in bands that have had to produce records on a deadline. I don't see any need for it, because at the end of the day, this allows me the ability to do things at my pace, and it allows me the ability to focus 100% on making that song as perfect as I want it to be, without any restriction. If you go into the studio, with 3 or 4 strong songs and you got to produce another, let's say 7 or 8 songs, something's going to suffer there. And I don't ever want that. You know, I'm a perfectionist. I'm a little bit of a control freak, I guess. That's probably why I made this a solo project, right? Because things weren't getting done like properly in my eyes, I would say. So, and the guys seem to be cool with it. The rest of the band, they like the pace that we take. You know, when we go into rehearse, we bang out the live set and we start working on a new song. It's easy pace. Nobody's getting stressed out except for me. And it's the way it is. I've been in talks with a lot of like major hitters involved with some big labels. They've shown some interest. Some have shown a lot of interest, but are skeptical because of my personal age and the overall sound of the band is not exactly what's like the new hotness right now. But
right.
at the same time, it's been consistent. And the sound of the band has been relatively evolving, but still consistent and maturing, while the overall sound is timeless. I feel like there's some critics who will listen to the Silencer and say it's a little dated because they only grew up in a certain era of metal, whereas most people I show it to, they're like, man, I hear your band and I hear influences from the 80s. I hear influences from the 90s, the 2000s. I hear influences from grunge, metalcore, death metal, black metal. So I like to not keep myself limited to a specific genre of metal. I like to incorporate everything. I'm a buffet style eater. You know what I mean? I like getting everything on that plate. So, you know, I think that's the best bet, man. Keep doing singles until some guy's going to throw us a buttload of cash to create a record. But I do want to put out, when maybe after the next single or the follow-up, I want to release a limited edition vinyl. It's already got a art cover and everything. It's going to be called the Silencer Collection, and it's just going to be a limited vinyl with the entire collection of singles up to whatever single we're at that present moment. And they're going to be released not remixed and not remastered, but as they were made originally, so that you can actually hear the progression from the very first song, Discovery of the Lost Cause, up to the latest single, let's say it's I Archaic. You'll hear the progression and the maturity of the music.
That's cool. I like that idea.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, this has been wild, man. Small world. Wrestling.
It really is. Well, where are you based out of right now?
I'm out of the Philadelphia area.
Oh, so yeah, all right. So then you definitely got to come down to the Monster Factory sometime.
Yeah, now I have to. Now, does Meanie still go over? Is he still over there? Or?
Who, Meanie?
Yeah.
Yeah, he comes in from time to time, and it's been a while since I've seen him. Bill Wiles is there like every show.
Okay.
Meanie comes in and out, but I'm sure if like we hit him up, you know, he'll probably come through. I know he's been busy with a lot of stuff, but yeah, and a lot of guys coming in and out of there. Like Abyss has been there. He was just there 2 or 3 shows. 2 shows ago, he was down there. And you know, we get like do a lot of like super camps, and we do a lot of these camps for students to like get in touch with veterans and people involved in the industry, like even old school guys with less stature will come in, and so it's really been killing it over there. And it's a different Monster Factory than than the Monster Factory of back in the day. It's a new animal. Oh, yeah. We actually have the most signed wrestlers to WWE and Ring of Honor and Evolve right now. So
I see what Danny does, like you know, from his Facebook posts and just his mentality and the whole thing, and I just love it, man. I love what he's doing over there, and I've been praising. People come to me like asking about wrestling, and that's the first place I say, I'm like, the Monster Factory. Go see Danny, seriously.
Yeah, he's definitely, he stirs the pot, which some people agree with his way of doing things, and some people don't. Where I definitely respect and agree with him is on 2 fronts. First off being that he tells you how it is. He could care less about the repercussions. He's going to speak his mind. He's an excellent coach in the sense that he's not there to be your buddy. He's not there to be your friend, although he will be. But when he's coaching, he's supposed to be your worst enemy because he's supposed to pull out the very best from you. And in professional wrestling, it's unlike, as you know, it's unlike any other sport or any other activity you could possibly involve yourself with. It's physically and mentally the most demanding thing could probably ever do to yourself. It could also be the most physically damaging thing you've ever done to yourself. And you need someone who's going to not only help you develop a thick skin, but a strong heart, a strong mentality, a great work ethic, and just this sense of maturity and responsibility for yourself and your own actions. And I've noticed that Danny has been very key at doing that. And hey, man, he could be hypocritical at times, but he's kind of that do as I say, not as I do. And that's what a good coach does. They provide you with this ability of seeing that, you know, everyone's human, but at the time when I'm being trained, I need to be this monster. I need to be this animal. I need to listen to my trainer, shut my mouth, and open my ears. And he's awesome at that. The second reason I respect him to the nth degree, and I'll always have love for Danny Cage, is because I had walked away from professional wrestling for a very long time. My brother, Punishment Martinez, he was killing it. He was a constant at the Monster Factory. Got involved in the indie scene. He had a little stale area in his career at one point where he was concerned if this is what he was going to continue doing. He was getting older, and he had the come to Jesus moment where he decided he was going to give it his all. Him and Danny were constantly working together with coaching other students and talent. Punishment started getting better and better, became more in shape, and he got a bigger sense to him and more pride and self-respect, and became this monster. And now he's killing it. He killed it in Ring of Honor. Now he's in NXT. But where I respect Danny is when I left, I broke into the business with Punishment, and then I left to pursue music. I had some depths in my family. I was uncertain with things in my 20s, and music was just something I was just so naturally good at, whereas pro wrestling, it really was a struggle for me to get good. I got really good, but it took a very long time. I'm not a natural athlete. I'm just not. But I always had a love for it. I always had a bug for it. I always came around to see Punishment's matches. I was still involved in the indie scene, going to shows, going to Ring of Honor shows, WWE. And I was really into fitness, staying in great shape and still looking like a wrestler. So Punishment asked me, he goes, you know, you going to really start training again? And I thought about it at one point. I was like, you know, with music, if I get hurt, which is inevitable, when you wrestle, you get injured, that can really set me back as a musician to the point where I can't play my guitar, I can't play my drums. And to me, the benefits of being a wrestler don't outweigh the benefits of being a musician for me personally. But I still love the business, and I have so much passion for it. So he's like, you never shut the hell up. You never shut your mouth like I'm doing now. You know, he's like, why don't you try to become like a commentator? He's like, I'll talk to Danny. So he talks to Danny. Danny let me back in. Now, Danny had taken over the Monster Factory, let me back into the school. I never had to pay another tuition. I never had to pay him any ring dues or any kind of dues. He let me back in on the premise that I had paid my dues off when I had been a student there originally under Larry Sharp. And to me, that speaks volumes of the man. Volumes. At the end of the day, he could have just said, you know what, yeah, you can come back, but you got to throw me some change every month. He didn't do that. And he's allowed me to come in and be their guy for commentary and be the voice of the company. And I think he sees that I put in the work. I think he sees that I have a passion for it. Some people might say maybe I got a pass because of Punishment. I don't think so, because if my work sucked and I wasn't as good as I know I am, Danny wouldn't have let me do it. So right. I got to take my hat off to Danny Cage for that.
That's awesome. Well, hats off to you, and hats off to Danny Cage, and hats off to the Silencer. So there you go.
There you go. That's a good way to bring it home.
Cool. All right, so where should we send everybody to? Where's the best place for everybody to go to get all the details on the Silencer and the music and everything else?
Okay, well, first off, everyone can go right to our official website. It's thesilencermusic.com. Pretty simple stuff. But the most activity you'll find is on Instagram at The Silencer Music. We're also on Twitter at The Silencer Music 1027, which is hard to remember. So stick with Instagram. That's definitely the best way to see all of our content. You'll also get stuff on Instagram that you won't get on Facebook. But if you want to follow us on Facebook as well, it's at Facebook.com/The Silencer Music.
Awesome. Charlie, dude, this was awesome talking to you and getting to meet you. And actually, I just sent you a friend request too on Facebook. So
awesome. I'll definitely accept it, and we gotta get you down to the factory for sure. Maybe the bug will bite you too.
You know what? No. It's funny. You know, I used to run my own promotion, and I had a school. I had actually 2 schools at one time, or 2 times, I should say. And my old partner, he restarted the federation a year ago. And he was running a show in October, and he came to me over the summer. He's like, I want you to come back, and I want you to do commentary. And I'm like, no. I'm like, no. I want no parts of it. And then he asked this. He's a man now. He's 30 years old, but his father was our original ring announcer when we started promoting shows in '94. And
wow.
He was 5 years old at the time. He was our little ring attendant. Well, he's the commentator. He goes, I want you to partner up with Richie. I'm like, no. I'm like, no. And then the kid, Richie, he started getting on me. He's like, come on. And like after like a month, I was like, all right, I'll do it. And yeah, so now I'm back in. But that's it.
Yeah, good. Well, you know what, man? Maybe we get you come down to the factory and we get you to do some guest commentary with us. It's usually myself and the Ferran Burgundy, the one who says "keep it classy, stay classy." He's an amazing character too. He's my broadcast colleague. But we just finished up a whole season of TV tapings. It's going to be airing locally by you. I'm not sure of the network,
Okay.
but it's broadcasting through Quinn Media. Should be dropping this month, I believe. But yeah, man, if you come down and we start talking, maybe we get you to come do some guest commentary. It'd be awesome.
Well, I'll come. I've been wanting to come over there just to check it out. But I would, just love to come out and hang out and Joe and meet you. That's all.
Yeah, absolutely. Either way, man, I'm down there usually like twice a month, so we should definitely hook up.
Absolutely. Cool. Well, Charlie, man, this was great talking to you and great meeting you, man.
Same here, Ben, man. I appreciate it.
You got it. Take care.
Take care now.
Bye.